Today is my birthday, and my wife, Claire Sterling, the CEO of a billion-dollar corporation, decided to invite her old flame over. The guy's name is Trevor Hayes. He just got back from overseas, radiating a smug, self-satisfied energy. He tossed a Ferrari key onto the birthday cake in front of me, splattering frosting across my face. $1 million. Leave Claire. A worthless piece of trash like you doesn't deserve her. My mother-in-law, Sharon, was beaming next to him, gushing about how decisive and powerful Trevor was. Claire frowned, looking like she was about to say something. I wiped the cream from my cheek and smiled. The son of a local real estate mogul dares to challenge me. I picked up my phone and discreetly sent a text. It's time. Liquidate Hayes Corporation. Chapter 1. Ethan, what are you smiling at? Trevor is talking to you. My mother-in-law, Sharon Miller, slammed her hand on the table, her voice sharp and grating. You're a spineless freeloader. The only reason you're not homeless is because Claire took pity on you. That's the best luck you'll ever have. Now Trevor is offering you $1 million to get lost. You should be on your knees thanking him. Trevor Hayes crossed his arms, his chin held high, practically looking down his nose at me. The look in his eyes was one you'd give an ant you were about to crush. Behind him, 2 bodyguards cracked their knuckles. I had no doubt that if I said the word no, they would physically throw me out of this mansion. Keep going. Let's see how long the Hayes family can keep this act up. I ignored them, my gaze settling on Claire. She was wearing a sharp, tailored white pantsuit, and her beautiful face was now covered in a layer of frost. Mom, Trevor, that's enough. Her voice was quiet, but it carried an authority that couldn't be questioned. This is my home. Ethan is my husband. Who gave you the nerve to cause a scene here? Sharon's bluster immediately deflated. Claire, honey, I'm just looking out for you, she muttered. Trevor, I don't need your help running my life. Claire cut her off coldly. She walked over to me, pulled a napkin from the holder, and gently wiped the remaining frosting from my face. Her fingertips were cool, but her touch was soft. A warmth spread through my chest. In the year we'd been married, we'd been more like roommates sharing a high-end apartment. This was the closest she'd ever been to me. Trevor's face turned a sickly shade of green, his eyes burning with a jealous fire. Claire, you're choosing this nobody over me. Trevor. Claire turned, her eyes as sharp as knives. First, I don't know you that well anymore. Second, I need you to leave my house. Immediately, or I'll have security escort you out. Trevor was shaking with rage. He snatched the Ferrari key from the table and slammed it on the marble floor. Fine. Claire Sterling, you'll regret this. No one takes what's mine. He spat out the threat, then stormed out with his bodyguards, slamming the door behind him. Sharon stomped her foot and scurried after him. Trevor, wait. Don't be angry. The enormous living room was suddenly silent, leaving just me and Claire. The air was thick with a new, awkward tension. I'm sorry, she said first, her voice tinged with exhaustion. I had no idea my mother would invite him. It's fine, I said, shaking my head and looking at the ruined cake. What a waste. It was my favorite, too. Tiramisu, your birthday. I'll get you another one, she said softly. I looked at her, and she was already looking at me, her cool gray eyes holding an emotion I couldn't quite decipher. Just then my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. Sir, the largest real estate project under the Hayes Corporation, Elysian Fields, has been shut down indefinitely pending a full investigation into regulatory violations. The federal auditors are on site now. Chapter 2, I glanced at the text, the corner of my mouth twitching into a barely perceptible smile. Peterson is as efficient as ever. This was just the appetizer. What is it? Claire asked, noticing my expression. Nothing. Just spam. I casually slipped the phone back into my pocket. You must be hungry. I'll make dinner. I turned and walked toward the kitchen as if the whole dramatic scene had never happened. Claire watched me go, her expression complicated. Sharon returned shortly, sighing dramatically the moment she walked in. What a disaster. Claire, how could you chase Trevor away like that? He's such a great catch. She collapsed onto the sofa, wringing her hands. What kind of spell has that Ethan put you under? What good is a man who just stays home all day, cooking and cleaning? I emerged from the kitchen carrying a bowl of freshly made pasta carbonara, just in time to hear her last comment. Dinner's ready, Sharon, I said calmly, placing the bowl in front of Claire. Sharon shot me a dirty look. Eat, eat, eat. That's all you know how to do. Just looking at you ruins my appetite. Claire picked up her fork. Ethan's cooking is amazing, she said quietly. She twirled a forkful of pasta, brought it gracefully to her lips, and a flicker of genuine satisfaction crossed her cool features. Sharon looked like she'd been slapped, staring at us, speechless. Nice one, honey. Dinner concluded in that strange, tense atmosphere. Sharon stayed in the living room, watching TV and loudly narrating how brilliant Trevor was and how wealthy his family was. If it wasn't for the Hayes family, Claire's company never would have gone public so smoothly. Now that Trevor's back, it would be a merger of titans. Our family could become the most powerful name in Seattle. Claire was in her home office, ignoring her mother completely. I was on the balcony, watering the plants. The local evening news was playing on the TV. We interrupt this program with breaking news. The city's flagship development project, Elysian Fields, was abruptly shut down by federal regulators this afternoon. The developer, Hayes Corporation, is now under a full-scale investigation. Sources say the company's stock has already entered freefall. The screen showed a live shot of the Hayes Corporation headquarters, swarming with reporters. In the living room, Sharon's monologue came to a dead stop. She stared at the TV screen, her smug expression melting into disbelief. What is this? It has to be fake news, right? She fumbled for the remote, frantically changing the channel. But every local news station was reporting the same story. Hayes Corporation was in deep trouble. Sharon's face went white as a sheet. Her phone began to ring nonstop. Her socialite friends, the ones she loved to brag to during their weekly bridge games. Hello, Sharon. Didn't you say your daughter was about to get engaged to the Hayes heir? I just saw on the news the Hayes Corp. Click. Sharon frantically hung up, cold sweat beading on her forehead. She stared in disbelief at the television, then turned to look at me, standing calmly on the balcony with a watering can. For the first time, her eyes held a flicker of doubt and suspicion. That's all it takes to rattle you? The main event hasn't even started. I set down the watering can and walked back into the living room. It's getting late, Sharon. You should get some rest. My voice was perfectly calm, but to her, it seemed to send a chill down her spine. Chapter 3 the next day, Claire had to attend a major anniversary gala for her company. As her legal husband, I was expected to accompany her. Sharon tried to tag along that morning, but a single icy glare from Claire sent her retreating. Before we left, Claire handed me a box containing a custom-tailored Tom Ford suit. Tonight, you're my date. Her gaze was direct, without a hint of jest. I changed into the suit and stood before the full-length mirror. Clothes really do make the man. I clean up pretty well. Claire stared at my reflection, lost in thought for a moment. It fits perfectly, she murmured, the tips of her ears turning a faint shade of pink. The gala was held at the Four Seasons Hotel in downtown Seattle, the most luxurious venue in the city. The moment Claire and I walked into the ballroom, arm in arm, we became the center of attention. Isn't that Claire Sterling? Who's the guy with her? Never seen him before. He's handsome, but a total unknown. I heard she got married a year ago to some regular guy. You don't think that's him, do you? The whispers were laced with undisguised scorn and ridicule. I paid them no mind, smoothly taking 2 glasses of champagne from a passing waiter and handing one to Claire. Don't listen to them, I murmured. She nodded, her grip on my arm tightening slightly. Just then, a harsh voice cut through the chatter. Well, if it isn't Miss Sterling. What's the matter? Our family runs into a little trouble, and you're already eager to parade your boy toy around town. It was Trevor Hayes. He was wearing a wrinkled suit, his eyes were bloodshot, and his face was gaunt. He looked like he hadn't slept in days, a pathetic shadow of the arrogant man from yesterday. But the venom and fury in his eyes had only intensified. He glared at me, his gaze like daggers. You parasite, this is your fault. You're a curse. You brought this down on my family. He screamed hysterically, causing the entire ballroom to turn and stare. He's lost his mind. How is this my fault? Before I could speak, Claire stepped in front of me. Trevor, what are you doing? You're not welcome here. Please leave. What am I doing? Trevor let out a bitter laugh. Claire, don't you forget how much my father helped your company go public. Now my family is in crisis, and not only do you refuse to help, but you're here canoodling with this loser? How dare you? His words sent a fresh wave of murmurs through the crowd. Many of the guests started looking at Claire differently, with a hint of condemnation. So Sterling Corp had help from the Hayes family to get their IPO. That's pretty cold of her, turning her back on them now. Claire was so angry her face was pale and her body trembled slightly. I gently patted the back of her hand to reassure her. Then I took a step forward, looking Trevor directly in the eye. First, Sterling Corp went public because of its cutting-edge technology and superior products. It had nothing to do with your family. As for your father's initial investment, Claire paid that back with interest years ago. Second, your family is in trouble because your hands are dirty. You have no one to blame but yourselves. My voice wasn't loud, but each word was clear and sharp, silencing the room. And third, I paused, scanning the crowd before letting my gaze land back on Trevor's twisted face. Who the hell do you think you are, to stand here and question my wife? The words hung in the air. The ballroom was dead silent. Chapter 4. Everyone was stunned by my declaration. How dare this man, this freeloader, this nobody, talk back to the heir of the Hayes fortune? Trevor was momentarily speechless. Then his face contorted with rage. Who the hell do you think you are? How dare you speak to me like that? He swung a fist wildly at my face. My eyes went cold. I dodged the clumsy punch with a simple sidestep, and at the same time, subtly stuck out my foot. Thump! Trevor went down hard, sprawling face first on the polished floor like a sack of bricks. A wave of suppressed gasps and choked laughter rippled through the ballroom. Security? Where's security? Trevor roared, his voice muffled by the carpet. 2 hotel security guards immediately rushed over, but they were stopped by Claire's assistant before they could reach us. Apologies, this is a private matter from Ms. Sterling. Trevor struggled to his feet, his face a mask of pure hate. A private matter? Claire, if I don't get an explanation today, I swear this isn't over. He pointed a shaking finger at me, then yelled at Claire, "You're going to divorce him right now and announce our engagement. If you don't, I'll leak every dirty secret about how you begged my father for money all those years ago." Threats? He's really run out of moves. Claire's expression turned to ice. "Trevor, are you threatening me?" "So what if I am?" he shot back, completely unhinged. "If I'm going down, I'm taking you with me." The surrounding guests watched with rapt attention, as if it were a reality TV show finale. They were all waiting to see what the Ice Queen CEO would do. Would she protect her reputation and dump the loser husband? Or would she stand by her man and make an enemy of the powerful Hayes family? Just as everyone assumed Claire was trapped in an impossible situation, I smiled. I took out my phone and dialed the number. "Hello, Peterson." My voice was soft, but in the silent ballroom, it was perfectly clear. "Yes, it's me. At the Four Seasons ballroom. There's a small problem. Yes, the Hayes kid. No need to overdo it. Just teach him a lesson he'll never forget." I hung up. The entire call took less than 30 seconds. Trevor stared at me as if I were an idiot. "Putting on a show? Who do you think you are? Calling for backup? Who are you going to call? The sanitation department." He laughed mockingly, and some of the crowd joined in. To them, I was obviously bluffing. However, less than a minute later, the grand doors of the ballroom were thrown open from the outside. A group of imposing men in black suits and sunglasses filed in silently. The sheer intensity they radiated seemed to lower the temperature of the room by several degrees. Leading them was an impeccably dressed, sharp-eyed older gentleman. His eyes swept the room, finally landing on me. The next second, under the astonished gaze of every guest in the room, the man strode quickly to me, stopped, and executed a formal 90-degree bow. "Sir, my apologies for the delay. I hope you were not inconvenienced." The room was utterly, completely silent. Chapter 5. Trevor's laughter died in his throat. The look on his face shifted from arrogance to confusion, then to pure, unadulterated terror. He looked like he'd swallowed a bug. If Sharon had been there, she would have fainted on the spot. The guests' jaws dropped. They looked from the deferential old man to me, and back again, their brains short-circuiting. This man they had been mocking, this supposed freeloader, who was he? Who could possibly command this level of respect, to be addressed as Sir with such reverence? Peterson always did have a flair for the dramatic. I shook my head with a sigh and said to him, "Get this rabid dog out of here." He's dirtying the place. Yes, sir. Peterson straightened up. With a single glance, two of the men in black stepped forward and lifted Trevor off the ground as if he were a child. What are you doing? Let me go. Do you know who I am? My father is Robert Hayes. Trevor shrieked, struggling wildly. Peterson let out a cold snort and walked over to him. Robert Hayes, he asked, a contemptuous smile playing on his lips. As of today, the name Hayes Corporation ceases to exist in this city, and so does the name Robert Hayes. Peterson's voice was calm, but it carried a chilling finality that froze the blood. Trevor's eyes widened in horror. He finally understood the catastrophic scale of the power he had provoked. Fear, absolute and overwhelming, consumed him. No, please. I was wrong. I'm so sorry, he babbled incoherently. A dark patch spread across the front of his pants, and the foul stench of urine filled the air. He had wet himself from sheer terror. The guests recoiled, their faces a mixture of disgust and shock. Peterson waved a dismissive hand. The two men dragged the sobbing, filth-covered mess that was Trevor Hayes out of the ballroom. The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Peterson approached me again, holding out a sleek, black credit card. Sir, your father asked me to give you this. He said that while you're out experiencing life, you shouldn't have to overly concern yourself with trivialities. I glanced at the card, my brow furrowing slightly. An Amex Centurion card with no limit? Is the old man trying to buy my return? I didn't take it. Take it back. Tell him I don't need his help to run my life. Sir, Peterson began to protest. Leave, I said, my tone leaving no room for argument. Peterson sighed, withdrew the card, and led his men out of the ballroom as quietly as they had arrived. It was as if they had never been there. Only when the doors closed did a collective gasp sweep through the room. Every single eye was now fixed on me. The looks were no longer filled with scorn or ridicule, but with awe, fear, and a desperate desire to ingratiate. They were all frantically trying to guess who I was. Claire just stood silently by my side. She hadn't said a word through the entire ordeal, but I could see the hurricane of emotions in her cool gray eyes. She was looking at me, the man she'd shared a roof with for a year, and realizing for the first time that she didn't know me at all. Chapter 6, the Gala, ended abruptly after that. The drive home was suffocatingly silent. Claire gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles white from the pressure. She didn't look at me, staring straight ahead at the road, but the tense line of her jaw betrayed the storm raging inside her. Oh, who are you? She finally asked, her voice barely a whisper. Ethan Vance, I answered. You know, that's not what I mean. Her voice suddenly rose, trembling with emotion. I turned to look at her. The passing streetlights cast fleeting shadows across her face. Her eyes, usually as cool and clear as ice, were now filled with confusion and a raw vulnerability. I scared her. I sighed internally. Claire, there are things I didn't tell you, but it wasn't to deceive you. Then why? She pressed. You're rich? You have powerful connections? So what was all this? Were you just experiencing life? Was it fun watching us, like clowns in your own private circus? Her voice was laced with a bitter, self-mocking pain. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. No, it wasn't like that. I reached for her hand, but she flinched away as if my touch would burn her. Don't touch me. Screech. The car lurched to a halt as she slammed on the brakes, pulling over to the side of the road. She slumped over the steering wheel, her shoulders shaking silently. She was crying. The woman who was always so strong, so untouchable, the Ice Queen CEO, was crying like a lost child. My heart felt like it was being squeezed in a vice. It ached. I made her cry. I had no idea what to say. Should I tell her I was the heir to the Vance family fortune from New York, that I ran away to escape an arranged marriage, that I approached her at first because I thought she'd make the perfect cover, only to find myself genuinely falling for her? Would she even believe me? Or would she think it was all just a bigger, more elaborate lie? The only sound in the car was her suppressed sobbing. After a long time, she finally sat up, her eyes red and swollen. Ethan, let's end our contract early. She opened the glove compartment and pulled out a folder and a bank card, holding them out to me. These are the divorce papers. I've already signed them. This card has $10 million in it, double what we originally agreed upon. Consider it compensation. My heart plummeted. I stared at the signed papers and the cold, impersonal bank card. $10 million? She thinks she could buy me off, erase the past year with $10 million? A surge of anger I didn't know I had flared up inside me. I didn't take them. What is this, Claire? My voice turned cold. You think I need your $10 million? She looked taken aback. He was right. A man whose associate could bankrupt a major corporation with a single phone call wouldn't need $10 million. She gave a bitter laugh. I don't know. I don't know what you need or what you want. All I know is that we are not from the same world. Who says? I leaned in closer, forcing her to meet my gaze. If I want us to be, we are. What are you? Before she could finish, I cupped the back of her head and crushed my lips against hers. Chapter 7. Claire's entire body went rigid. Her eyes flew open wide. She tried to push me away, but my arm was like a steel band around her, holding her fast. It was a rough, punishing kiss. I was angry, and I wanted her to feel it. I forced her lips apart, taking possession of her mouth, stealing the air from her lungs. You want a divorce? You want to push me away? I didn't know where all this rage was coming from. Maybe it was the cold, clinical divorce papers. Maybe it was her saying we weren't from the same world. Or maybe, just maybe, it was because I was terrified of losing her. Slowly, her struggles weakened. Her rigid posture began to soften. Hesitantly, awkwardly, she started to kiss me back. The kiss went on for a long, long time. We only broke apart when the need for air became overwhelming. Her lips were red and swollen, her eyes dazed, and a beautiful flush colored her cheeks. In that moment, she was 1,000 times more alluring than her usual, untouchable self. You, she gasped, trying to find words. I gently traced her swollen lips with my thumb, my voice hoarse. Listen to me, Claire Sterling. I don't care what you thought before. From this moment on, you are my woman. A divorce? Don't even think about it. And you can tear up those damn papers. My tone was possessive, absolute. Claire stared at me, a complex mix of emotions swirling in her eyes. There was shock and anger, but beneath it all was something else, a sense of security. She didn't say anything, but she didn't mention the divorce again. The car started moving, heading smoothly toward home. When we got back, Sharon was, surprisingly, still awake. The moment she saw us, she shot up from the sofa, her face plastered with a fawning, sycophantic grin. Oh, my dear son-in-law, you're finally back. Are you hungry? I made you some special ginseng soup. She bustled over, holding a steaming bowl, her attitude more reverent than if she were greeting a king. The speed of that personality change is almost impressive. She missed her calling in theater. I shot her a sideways glance and ignored her. Claire's tired. She needs to rest. I took Claire's hand and led her straight upstairs to the bedroom, leaving Sharon standing awkwardly in the living room, holding the soup. She looked embarrassed, but didn't dare say a word of complaint. The way she looked at me now, you'd think I was a walking ATM. Inside the bedroom, Claire pulled her hand from mine, her cheeks slightly flushed. I'm going to take a shower. She practically fled into the adjoining bathroom. I watched her hasty retreat, a genuine smile spreading across my face. I picked up the divorce papers she had brought back with her, and without a moment's hesitation, ripped them into tiny pieces and dropped them into the trash can. The sound of the shower filled the room, but my mind was replaying the kiss in the car. The softness of her lips, the taste of her. I am addicted. Just then my phone rang. It was Peterson. Sir, report. The Hayes family is finished. Robert Hayes suffered a massive stroke when he heard the news. He's in critical condition. Also, Peterson's tone paused, growing heavy. Your father. He knows you're in Seattle. He has dispatched a team. Chapter 8. My heart sank. The old man knew. He finally knew. When do they arrive? My voice was ice. Tomorrow morning, at the earliest. Find a way to stop them. Sir, the team he sent is the Sentinel unit. I can't stop them, Peterson said, his voice filled with a rare helplessness. The Sentinels. The Vance family's elite private security. They answered only to my father. If they were coming, there was no running. Damn it. The quiet life is over. I hung up, my mind racing. The bathroom door opened and Claire emerged, wrapped in a plush towel. Droplets of water traced a path from her neck down to her collarbone. It was an incredibly sensual sight, but right now, I was in no mood to appreciate it. She saw the grim expression on my face. What's wrong? She asked, her voice soft with concern. I shook my head. Nothing. Just a small issue with the company. I didn't want to worry her. More importantly, I didn't want to drag her into the black hole that was my family. Ethan. She walked over to me and, summoning her courage, met my eyes. Are you leaving? There was a faint tremor in her voice. I froze. Why would you ask that? I heard you. On the phone. You told someone to stop a team from arriving. Her perception was far sharper than I had given her credit for. I fell silent. The light in her eyes began to dim. So it's true. You really were just here to experience life, weren't you? And now the experiment is over, and it's time to go home. She let out a self-deprecating laugh and turned toward the bed. Don't worry, I won't cling to you. We can go sign the papers tomorrow. She was talking about the divorce again. The word was like a needle pricking at my heart. I moved behind her, wrapping my arms around her waist. Her body tensed for a second, but she didn't pull away. Claire, I'm not leaving. I rested my chin on her shoulder, inhaling her fresh, clean scent, feeling the warmth of her body. Trust me, I'm not going anywhere. But if they come, I'll tell them to get lost. My voice was quiet, but it was filled with an unshakable resolve. She turned in my arms, her eyes glistening with tears. Ethan, you've lied to me once. I will never lie to you again. I cupped her face in my hands, looking her straight in the eye. I'm falling for you, Claire Sterling. Not because of a contract, and not because you're the CEO of Sterling Corp., but because you're you. It was the first time I had ever been so direct about my feelings. Claire was stunned. She stared at me, as if trying to read the truth in my eyes. The next second, she stood on her toes and pressed her lips to mine. This kiss was different. There was no hesitation. It was urgent, tinged with anxiety, and fueled by a desperate, all-or-nothing resolve. It was a kiss that said she was willing to gamble everything on me. Outside, the city was dark and quiet, and our story was just beginning. Chapter 9 the next morning, when I woke up, Claire was already gone. On the nightstand was a glass of water and a post-it note. Went to the office. Breakfast is in the kitchen. Her handwriting was elegant, just like her. I drank the water in one gulp. Seems like last night's confession worked. I was in a great mood, but the thought of the Sentinels arriving today quickly soured it. I couldn't let them find this place. I couldn't let them disrupt the life I was building with Claire. I dialed Peterson's number. Sir, have you tracked their route? Yes. They're on your father's private jet. ETA at Seattle-Tacoma is 10 a.m. Create a problem. Bad weather, air traffic control, a minor and non-threatening mechanical issue. Whatever it takes. I want them grounded. They're not to set foot in Seattle today. Sir, that's... Peterson hesitated. The Sentinels will investigate. If they discover it was us, then do a clean job, I commanded. I don't care how you do it. I don't want to see them in this city today. Yes, sir. I hung up and rubbed my temples. This was a temporary fix. I knew my father's temper. If I stopped them this time, he'd just send more men, or worse, come himself. I needed a permanent solution. Maybe it was time I went on the offensive. As I was thinking, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered, a slight frown on my face. Hello. A cold, electronically disguised voice came through the line. Ethan Vance. Who is this? That's not important. What is important is that your woman, Claire Sterling, is with me. My mind went blank. A roar filled my ears as blood rushed to my head. If you touch a single hair on her head, I will make you beg for a death that will never come. The words were squeezed through my clenched teeth, dripping with a murderous rage. The person on the other end seemed taken aback by my intensity, pausing for a few seconds. At big words. If you want her to live, come to the abandoned warehouse district in Soto. Alone. Don't call the cops, and don't bring anyone with you. Otherwise, you can come collect her body. Click. The line went dead. I gripped my phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. Who? Who would do this? Trevor? No, he wouldn't have the guts or the resources anymore. There was no time to think. Saving Claire was the only thing that mattered. I grabbed my car keys and sprinted out of the house. As I drove, I called Peterson. Peterson, Claire's been taken. They want me to go to the Soto warehouse district alone. I need you to mobilize every asset we have, right now. I want that entire district surrounded. I don't want a single fly getting in or out. My voice was raw with panic and fury. What? Peterson exclaimed. Sir, don't be rash. It could be a trap. I don't care if it's a trap. All I care about is getting Claire back safely. I hung up and slammed my foot on the accelerator. The black Lamborghini shot forward like an arrow, tearing down the highway. Claire, hang on. Please, just hang on. Chapter 10. The abandoned warehouse was a skeleton of rusting steel. I kicked the locked door off its hinges and stormed inside. In the vast, empty space, Claire was tied to a steel support pillar, her mouth covered with duct tape. Her face was pale, and when she saw me, she shook her head frantically, her eyes wide with terror and worry. Next to her stood a man in a cheap clown mask. "You really came alone," the masked man said, clapping his hands together slowly, his voice dripping with mockery. "Let her go," I said, my voice as cold as a tomb, my eyes locked on him. "Let her go?" "Sure." The man pulled a wicked-looking knife from his jacket and lightly dragged the flat of the blade across Claire's cheek. "Get on your knees. Bow 3 times. Beg me, and I'll let her go." Claire's body trembled violently, tears streaming from her eyes. Seeing her cry, seeing that blade on her skin, felt like a physical blow. "You hurt her. You're a dead man." Without a single moment of hesitation, I dropped to my knees. A man's pride is said to be worth more than gold. But for her, I would give my life, let alone my pride. Thud, thud, thud. I slammed my forehead against the grimy concrete 3 times hard. A dull ache immediately started to bloom. "I'm begging you. Let her go." The masked man seemed surprised by how quickly I complied. He froze for a second, then burst into a cackling, unhinged laugh. "Ha ha! The great heir to the Vance family fortune, kneeling before me. Ethan Vance, look at you now." He ripped off the mask. The face underneath was bruised and haggard, but I recognized it instantly. Trevor Hayes. But he wasn't alone. Standing behind him was someone I never would have expected. Sharon, my mother-in-law. She glared at me, her eyes filled with a venomous, triumphant hatred. "Ethan, you bastard. You ruined Trevor. You ruined our family's chance to join the elite. Today, I'm sending you and this worthless bitch straight to hell." She shrieked, completely crazed. Claire stared at her own mother, her eyes filling with a new, deeper despair. "Mama, shut up. You're no daughter of mine, siding with this outsider." Sharon screamed. Trevor grinned, a terrifying, broken thing. He pointed his knife at me. "Didn't see this coming, did you, Ethan? You're so tough, right? So powerful? Look at you now, kneeling on the ground like a dog. How does it feel to beg?" Slowly, I pushed myself back to my feet, dusting off my knees. My face was a blank mask, devoid of anger. I was simply empty. "It doesn't feel great." I looked at him, as one looks at a corpse. "I gave you a chance, Trevor." "I don't need your chances," he roared. "Today, one of us is leaving here in a body bag." The moment the words left his mouth, a deafening roar filled the air. Whomp, 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 whomp. The sound of engines, coming from all directions. Dozens of black SUVs, like a pack of steel beasts, swarmed the area, boxing in the warehouse. Doors flew open and scores of men in black tactical gear poured out, weapons raised, forming a perimeter so tight nothing could escape. Overhead, a military-grade helicopter descended, its rotor wash kicking up a storm of dust and debris. The side door slid open, and Peterson fast-roped to the ground, followed by a squad of men in distinct uniforms who moved with a chilling, deadly precision. The Sentinels. They had come directly here. Peterson ran to me and dropped to one knee. "Sir, forgive me for my tardiness." Behind him, the entire Sentinel unit dropped to one knee in perfect unison, their voices thundering as one. "We have failed in our duty. We await the young master's judgment." Trevor and Sharon were frozen, paralyzed. They stared at the scene, which looked like something out of a Hollywood blockbuster, at the sea of men kneeling in the dirt. Their minds had ceased to function. They forgot to breathe. Claire was just as stunned, her mouth agape, as she stared at this man, her husband, who was now a complete and utter stranger. I ignored everyone else. I walked, step by deliberate step, toward Trevor Hayes. He was so terrified he couldn't even scramble backward. The knife fell from his nerveless fingers, clattering on the concrete. "No, stay back." He collapsed into a heap on the floor. I stood over him, looking down at his pathetic, trembling form. Then I raised my foot and brought it down. Chapter 11. Aeg. A blood-curdling scream echoed through the cavernous warehouse. I had stomped on Trevor's right leg, and it had snapped like a twig. The crack of bone was sickeningly audible. That was for Claire. My face was devoid of expression. I lifted my other foot and brought it down with the same brutal force. Crack! His left leg broke. And that was for me. Trevor writhed on the ground, howling in agony like a worm doused in salt. Sharon had collapsed into a puddle on the floor, her face ashen, completely mute with terror. I walked to Claire and took the knife Peterson handed me, slicing through the ropes that bound her. It's okay. I'm here now. I pulled her into my arms, holding her tight as her body shook with violent tremors. She buried her face in my chest and finally let go, sobbing hysterically, releasing all the fear, the betrayal, and the horror she had just endured. I held her, stroking her back, letting her tears soak my shirt. After a long time, her crying subsided to quiet shudders. She looked up at me, her eyes red and puffy. Ethan, I'm here. They called you young master? Yes. The Vance family, from New York? Are they a big deal? I managed a small smile. You could say that. Arguably, the most powerful family in the country. Claire's body went rigid in my arms. The shock was evident on her face. She had known I was more than I seemed, but she had never imagined the scale of it. It was beyond comprehension. The heir to the most powerful family in America had been her live-in husband for a year. Cooking, cleaning, enduring her mother's constant abuse. It all felt like some kind of bizarre fever dream. Just then, the leader of the Sentinel unit approached. He was built like a mountain, with a face carved from granite. Young master, your father orders your immediate return to New York. His tone was not a request. It was a command. Before I could answer, Claire's hand shot out and grabbed mine, her grip desperate. She looked at me, her eyes pleading, terrified that I was about to leave. I squeezed her cold hand, giving her a look that I hoped was reassuring. Then I turned to the Sentinel captain, my voice dropping to a dangerously low temperature. And if I refuse? The captain's expression hardened. Young master, please do not make this difficult for us. Difficult? I let out a cold laugh. I dare you to try and make me. The tension in the air became thick enough to cut with a knife. Suddenly, a booming, authoritative voice erupted from the helicopter's external speakers, a voice accustomed to absolute obedience. You little bastard, how much longer are you going to hide out in this provincial backwater? It was my father, Arthur Vance. He had come himself. Chapter 12. The helicopter landed, kicking up a final swirl of dust. The door slid open and a man in a perfectly tailored suit stepped out. He was older, but he carried himself with an indomitable air of power. This was my father, the current patriarch of the Vance family, Arthur Vance. He was followed by several of the family's most senior advisors. His mere presence blanketed the area in a powerful aura. Every sentinel, every one of Peterson's men, bowed their heads, not daring to meet his gaze. He strode over to me, his eyes like lasers. Are you done playing games? No, I said, meeting his stare without flinching. You, my father's mustache bristled with anger. For a woman, you would forsake your duty to the Vance family? I'm well aware of my duties. I don't need you to lecture me. Phoenix. Fine, fine, he roared, so angry he started to laugh. Let's see what kind of siren has my son so utterly bewitched. His gaze shot past me, landing like a physical blow on Claire. Claire paled, instinctively shrinking behind me. I took another step, shielding her completely from his view. She is my wife, the future matriarch of the Vance family. I expect you to show her the respect she is due. My words caused a collective intake of breath from everyone present, including my father. He stared at me, then peered around me at the woman who, despite her fear, was holding her head high. For a long moment, he was silent. Then, miraculously, the anger on his face began to melt away, replaced by a complex, almost approving expression. The boy has good taste. He was complimenting Claire? I approve of this daughter-in-law, Arthur Vance declared with a wave of his hand, as if signing a multi-billion-dollar deal. However, the heir to the Vance family cannot remain in exile. The two of you will return to New York with me. Next month, we will throw you the grandest wedding the world has ever seen. I was stunned. Claire was stunned. Neither of us had expected this outcome. I looked at my father. The usual hard-edged authority in his eyes had been replaced by something softer, something paternal. Perhaps he had been ready to relent for a while now, but had been too proud to admit it. Today's chaos had given him the perfect excuse. I turned back to Claire. Are you willing to come with me? To a world that was completely alien to her. To a family so large and powerful it was almost unimaginable. To face a future of unknown challenges. Claire looked me straight in the eye, her gaze unwavering. She didn't speak. She just nodded, a firm, resolute gesture. Then she stood on her toes and whispered in my ear, "Where you go, I go." I broke into a wide smile. I pulled her into my arms and held her as if I would never let go. The sun streamed through the broken windows of the old warehouse, bathing us in a warm, bright light. As for Trevor Hayes and Sharon Miller, writhing and weeping on the floor, they had already been forgotten, left behind in the dark corners of a world that had moved on without them.